You have 10?
Not
I have 10.
I think we are now on the second page. Here, fold to the second page, beginning Avodah She'ba Lev. Avodah She'ba Lev may be a separate, a little bit later on, if you don't have that there.
Rabbi Zalman, you're okay if Danny Palla starts coming. Danny Palla wanted to start coming on Friday mornings. That's okay by you, yeah?
Who?
Danny Palla.
Who is Danny?
Chovavstad.
Huh?
Chovavstad. Danny.
L'chaim l'shalom, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think you.
There's that other shiur that, that's
Yeah.
going to be a little more complex, a different story. Okay, Ikar HaMitzvah. First the Nigun. You all know this nigun from, it's a Chabad nigun, and it also Chernichovsky uses that for one of his poems, Sachaki, and so on and so forth. I'm thinking of this nigun because of Dr. Zhivago outside, It has that, ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da da. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da da da. Sing it again and you keep to the melody and I'll do some harmony. Ya da da da, ya da da. Ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da da ya da da one more. Ya da da da, ya da da da, ya da da da, ya da da, ya da da da, da Let's look up at the snow and Dr. Zhivago.
Yeah. That's the only adulterous movie that was the only adulterous movie Nadia and I ever saw. She fell in love with Omar Sharif and I fell in love with Julie Christie. And it was that movie, we saw it, we still remember, in the summertime in Los Angeles. When we walked out of the theater, we were cold. That
Well, it was a remarkable movie.
the book was also remarkable.
Now let's go.
Okay, what?
Ikar HaMitzvah.
Page 2.
Ikar Mitzvah Tfilah, שיכין את ליבו בשעת התפילה, ויטהר מחשבתו מכל עסקיו, שנאמר, ולעובדו בכל לבבכם, אמרו חז"ל, איזוהי עבודה שבלב, הוויום זו תפילה. So we encountered that Mama Chazal about Avodah before, but what he is saying here is about the preparation for it. And that is to move one's mind from all busies. And I'm sure you've tried to do that. And I can also bet that not with too much success.
How'd you guess?
So I have found a way in which I can turn off the nudgy alarm of those ideas that intrude. So right next to my place where I'm davening during the week, I have a notepad, and then mittendrin, it comes like, make this phone call. Instead of saying, don't think about it, then comes the whole other geschäft. Yeah, 5 times I reminded you and you didn't remember, right? And so this dialogue keeps coming and you're not in the davening. So I found out, oh, thank you, and I write it down, Shiur, Shah, still I can continue with my davening. It's an important trick, if you will, because turns out that some of the things that come in truth and davening are the way in which the Rebbeinu Shalom says, stop hacking me at shining, listen better to what I tell you. It happens in mitten davening that you somehow get this kind of thing that says, there's a task, leave us alone, there's some things you have to do. And that's the best way to write it down and to continue with davening, and then you'll do them also after davening. חלקי העבודה. תפילה היא על דרך שמעבדים את השדה. מתחילה חורשים, ואחר כך זורים, ואחר כך משכין מים, ורק אז מתחיל לצמוח. כמו כן בתפילה, ראשית היא החרישה העמוקה לפתוח הלב, ואחר כך מכניסים דברי התפילה ללב, והיא הזריעה. ואחר כך שופכים לב כמים לאור פני השם, זו השקעה, ואז מצמיח ישועות. ונקראת עבודה שבלב, כמו העבודה בשדה הופכת ארץ שממה לשדה פוריה, על דרך זה איזו עבודה שבלב. Wie arbeitet man aus a Yiddish heart? I like the way in which he uses that Yiddish there and says, how do you work through a Jewish heart to make it transformative, if you will? And he says, al yedei tefillah v'tachnunim. So what kind of thoughts does this bring up in you, what we just read? I mean, the mashal is such a beautiful mashal, and I have more trouble with the nimshal than I have with the mashal. Yeah? So how would you hear this? You see, when the heart is open, I don't need to have a can opener, right? When the heart is not open, so many of the ways in which I want to force it open don't work. Because it gets you into a place where if you're not going to stop, I'm going to fall asleep now, If you're not going to stop, I'll dumb out, so sometimes it doesn't go. So I'll tell you a little story. In the early 60s, I used to be doing at Camps Ramah religious environmentalist, which was to create an Avera Ruchanit, so which meant take the kids outdoors to daven. We had built some outdoor Oren Kodesh for different Eidot, so that there were the younger ones, the older ones, and they each davened in a different way. And that's when we had the talisarium, where the kids learned how to sew their talitot and put tzitzis in. We had a scriptorium, as you can hear from the language. It was deep in my connection with the Trappists at that time. And it was my dissertation. I was writing shtiklach in the Trappist scriptorium because there was no telephone to nudge me, and I was able to get away from being bothered. So, but the scriptorium is where they took 3x5 cards and wrote out mezuzahs for themselves. And then they went to the wood shop or to the other and made the shadels for the mezuzah and made their own. So it was a lot of hands-on stuff that became Jewish catalog. Then we had a meditation space that was just wonderful. And every kid in that group, in the Chug Ion Litfilah, was getting a chance at the Hermitage. There was one srif farther away from the rest of the camp, and so about 3 in the afternoon, we'd walk down one of the people from our group to the srif, pick up the one who was there before, and they would take just mazon, kama seudot with them, and a siddur, and just for a journal. And for kids 14, 15, this was such a wonderful experience. And Daniel Siegel was one of those people in those years, okay?
Wow.
So we took a trip at the end of the thing, and that's the trip that I met Timothy Leary. It's a whole geschäft. We went to all kinds of sanctuaries. We went to the Siemens Bethel in New Bedford, and I preached to them the Jonah sermon from Father Maple from that pulpit. It was a wonderful trip. We come to, after the ashram where I met Leary, we went down to Boston University, and I had a date with Howard Thurman, who was my black Rebbe, and with those kids. And they started to ask all kinds of questions, and one kid said, "What should I do when I don't feel like prayer and it's my prayer time?" So Howard says, there must be a phrase that has touched you at one point. So then you repeat that, start saying that phrase, repeat that phrase a few times, and you'll see it'll work. No, we travel on. We went to the Catholic Worker. We were at the St. John the Divine. We were at all kinds of places, and we wound up in Lubavitch. It was an amazing trip at that point, okay? A few months later, one of the kids that was on the trip is back in Hartford and sends me a 3-inch reel. That's how we corresponded in those days, in which he said like this: "This morning I didn't feel like davening." I remembered what Howard Thurman had said, and I started to say, "Le'el baruch ne'imot yitenu, le'el baruch ne'imot yitenu, le'el baruch ne'imot yitenu," and I jumped out of bed. So it was, it's so wonderful to hear that thing, it works for someone, And I found I have my phrases and you have your phrases. So that's a helpful way for the Harisha, because it says not so much that you have to dig there where there wasn't anything dug before, but on the contrary, it's like opening the zipper to a place that you've been to. It's easier because the phrase helps. What else have we got here? Now, what's the Zriya? What have been your experiences with a seed thought and how it grows and stuff like that?
Well, one of the things, way back when we first came to Boulder and you asked to have, once a month a Shabbos of renewal people who could daven.
Mm-hmm.
We had it at our house. And you did what I consider an advanced course in davenology.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember your teaching about nishmat. Right before we learned to do the chaotic davening for nishmat, you went through the text and you suggested that where there are phrases that evoke in your mind your intellectual baggage. So when it talks about the heavens, what have you, and you've got a grounding in physics or astronomy, to let those verses take the two parts of the mind and heart together and just pause and do whatever comes to you at that moment, the whole confluence of your knowledge and your awe at the mountains or what have you, or at the starry heavens, mm-hmm. if you happen to be davening in it. And I find that very, very helpful, that particularly for me, because of my my intellectual baggage of philosophy and history, that there are certain things in the liturgy that trigger those, whatever the thought patterns that begin to emerge, and it feels much, much deeper, and I just stay there for however long I want or need to be. So,
That's so wonderful. Constantly redo everybody else's thoughts. And at such a point you do your own. And
Right.
it's such a pleasure to be able to say, oh, so that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
That's what I'm feeling. So I think, so let's go back to this Ria. How do you put one of those seed thoughts in? This was a Zeria of method,
Right.
right? But he's talking here also about thoughts.
Well, for me, because my primary practice is through chant, and for the past 2 years, my practice has become, rather than chanting, something that somebody else decided was a chant, to use chant as a way to really understand the deep meaning of a phrase or an intention, or and so I use the chant really as a way to understand, what is the meaning of this phrase for me, or what is the challenge in it for me, or what is the gift in it for me, and I had one experience which I think I shared with you last year. It was just before Shavuot, or actually it was during the Omer period. I don't remember what was the reason, but I became very focused on Tach libi b'toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha tirdof nafshi, and and the way people always translate it is open my heart to your Torah, but my relationship with the language, it became open my heart with your Torah. Let Torah be the thing that opens my heart, and that's what it was, because I was really working on what is my relationship with Torah. My relationship with Torah was transforming and going through major shift at that time, and so that line came to me from the liturgy, and I worked with it so much that I went through this process where my heart had, the keyhole in my heart was shaped like a Sefer Torah, and the Torah was like opening my heart, and then what was it planting in me, and what was it urging me to do, and that whole notion of, tirdof nafshi, that's like then with sort of this joy, I just want to just jump at doing these things, So, and it was it was all through the Omer period that this was my practice. And my whole relationship with Torah was really transformed just through that practice.
What is the root, the shorish of hirhur? I would say haro, to be pregnant with.
Wow.
Right?
Nice.
And as you describe the thing, how you have been pregnant with this image, with this chanting, with this thing, and how that's a good mashal of tzmicha that comes, And the nigun is, like he's saying here, the tefillah that is the mashke, that which gives the field.
The Zriya is and it's connected in a certain way to what Reb Mani was saying, but the Zriya is making me think of the pasuk Hazoin Bedima Barina Yiksol, and the Zriya in that context it really is avodah mamash b'sadeh. It's like a real like a work, and for me the constant struggle between the kever and the kavanah, the kever of really sometimes making myself daven, and going through almost the pain of that practice and that discipline, for me it's so important that I do that, and in some ways that in itself is the zriya. Rather than planting a seed of a thought, it's just the action of the discipline of the tefillah, which is then not always, but often hopefully more often than not, the Katsira, I guess, is Barina. It's like the fruits of my own practice, kind of.
So I have another story. This also about Howard Thurman, who comes. I must check out when his Yortzeit is. So if you like certain people and you think these people have done great things for you, then you do whatever you can to bring these people into your circle so that other people in your circle might be able to be nehene from that. And when I was at the University of Manitoba, I was trying, how do I bring him to Manitoba? So finally he comes to Manitoba, gives some wonderful talks, and people go with him. And I asked him, where should I take you? I want to show you around. He isn't interested in the Parliament building, and whatever I can show him. So then I said, oh, well, how would you like to meet some of the monks? Oh, he says, yes, I want to do that. So they're the Trappists, and I'm friendly with them. So he says, I asked him, who do you want to talk to? I can call the abbot. He said, no, I don't want to talk with the abbot. The abbot is a manager. And he was right about that. He said, I want to talk to the master the master of Noob. The guys are just coming in.
And the vitiates.
The master of novices, right. So I call up and made the arrangement, the master of novices, and I saw the fly on the wall, hear the two of them schmooze. And then Howard asked the master of novices, what is the chief complaint that novices have when they come here? He says, they have to be at 2:30 in the morning in quiet meditation, many of them in hitpashta, on the floor, and then come the morning chantings and so on and so forth. And they say it's cold and it doesn't touch me and nothing really happens. And then, because monks are ora et labora, they have to work in the fields too. Then I go out to the field, and then, all the ecstasies are coming. It is so beautiful. So what do I have to go and do that? So he says, so what do you tell him to do? He says, I forbid him to come to any but the services, the liturgies of obligation. Which means once a week for the Mass, whatever comes up, it's a chiyuv, and all the others, I forbid him to come to. So what happens? A few weeks later, they come back and they say, we didn't come here to be farmhands. So he says, so what happened to your ecstasies? He says, they dried up. So he says, Hazorim bedima verina hiksaru. The ones who, that's staying up until they finally get it, the staying up at night and the chanting is the source from which they get the other thing.
You can't have the ecstasy without the agony.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. There's another, for me personally, it's still with me in davening, but it wasn't activated until I came into renewal and encountered more melodies for the prayers. My childhood education was that my mother created a situation where I was exposed to classical music and had to learn it. So Shabbos afternoon, after I came home from davening, I had to listen every week to the Texaco opera with Milton Cross. So I learned opera very well. And then the practice in the house, and then even afterwards, was to buy the Deutsche Grammophon editions of
the operas
and
other
symphony.
classical.
Right. So I would sit there and listen to them and read the back of the album cover, which I didn't know then, but it told you what you were supposed to be feeling through the various movements. So the one I remember so vividly is listening to Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture and imagining, because of my history background, Napoleon's army, the winter, and everything like that, and feeling the music. And that became...
And the cannon shots.
And all that. And then being able to go on the 4th of July in Los Angeles to the Hollywood Bowl and see it perform and experience it in the visual, not just...
Mm-hmm.
Well, that became a form of response as far as my neshama was concerned. It didn't matter whether Deutsches Grammophon was right or wrong about it. It was the emes as far as I was concerned. So in davening, because I can't listen to my own voice, chas v'sholom, so I allow myself to be carried away, particularly with Nadja's or the community now in renewal, they harmonize so well and all that, that I blot out the linguistic pressure and just get carried away by the melodic. And so my response will change for all sorts of reasons, but it's my one way of getting rid of words.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because I really get too hung up on the words.
Mm.
That's good for Shabbat Shira.
Yeah, and
That's right.
I'm really looking forward to this Shabbos. Yeah.
Maybe we should, none of us should give Divrei Torah, we should just sing the Shabbat.
Yeah.
I feel like it.
Yeah. Or sing the
Sing the
Devar.
Torah.
Start again. Gershon Shalom reports that Rabbi Levi Yitzchak taught the teaching about the white letters of the Torah. Okay, it's not found in the Kedushas Levi. So there's an Reb Chaim of Krasno is the one who reports that teaching of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak about why the Az Yashir has to be written like bricks. Because of and because the empty spaces there are really important and necessary, but we can't read them until Mashiach comes. When Mashiach will come, we'll be able to read the white letters of the Torah. That's where the teaching is from. I haven't got the sefer here because I wanted to show that to you apropos of this week's Sedra. And I think with music it's the same way. You have the pauses are important.
Yeah.
So let's see. So we talked a little bit about the sowing, the plowing, the sowing, and
Hashka'a.
yeah, and hashka'a. All right.
Zmirot is, what's the shorish of Zmirot?
Pardon?
The bone.
To prune, right?
What's the word?
No, but with Zmirot, there's a little, the whole agricultural connection with Zriya and all this, and so there's a hint
Well,
there.
if you go to the bottom of this all, it's trying to say it's not mechanical. It's organic. And in the organic, despite the fact that we have separate words for all these things, but they belong together. They're just part of the same process. The seed would have no place to fall if the soil was not plowed, and so on. I liked, and this week's Sedra is also very nice. Hashem yelochem lachem ve'atem tachrishon, right? So one of the reading was, the Rebishter wird euch geben Brot. God will yelachem lachem, will give you bread. Ve'atem tachrishon, but you have to plow.
Yeah.
Ja? Der Rebishter wird geben Brot, aber ackern darf dir allein, was the Yiddish phrase that went with that. Another, this was sort of a fun one. Reb Nochem Chernobyl was being taunted by Misnagdim one day. who, because, you know, they were young people and they had no dercheres and what have you, and they figured just because they were card-carrying misnagdim, they have a right to insult him. So Reb Nochem looked at them and says, "No, you have complaints about me, right? Loi Nochem Elohim. Nochem is not a god. Ve'atem? Der Cheretz Pelishtim. You Philistines, you better have der Cheretz, okay? Loi Nochem Elohim. Nochem ist kein Gott nicht, aber ihr, der Cheretz Pelishtim." On the schedule. Let's do another one, a two maybe. Okay. Olam Maleh. Here you have the Slonima again. The first one was Beis Avram. This is Be'er Avram's grandson. So once again you see, Yakar be'enav tefila achas ke'olam maleh. But what you have is again that the whole world, that the tefillah is a whole world. So when you have the business of the four levels of the davening and bringing it down, the Shiur Koma and so on and so forth, this is a process.
This is also a statement of the kavanah to be so fully present in the davening that is the whole world in that moment.
But I think you can also go the other direction. You know, that the Baal Shem Tov says, to Noach, Bo ato v'chol el hateva. Take your whole world into the davening, you know. It's not only a way of saying that you should leave the world outside, you know. It's like bringing the world into that thing. I find that lately I haven't done much with korbanot, you know. I confess.
It's been 2,000 years.
Huh?
The last 2,000
No,
years.
but I'm saying in the davening, you know, Ezo v'komon abaya having sada seda
We
hamarocho,
don't know what goes down here.
as kol boni lachmi, etc. You know, I haven't said these things for a while. You know what? I miss him.
Yeah.
I miss him not for that. I sort of would want to say something about Rebbeinu Shalom. I'm looking in the pantry, you know, and I see all these are the possibilities for food for this family, and I want to thank you, and we're going to offer that on the table. You know what I'm saying? That whole housekeeping stuff that was in Korbanot, all the pictures you have of the Kohen Gadol sort of with the chief cook cap, you know, and with the aprons and all that stuff, right? So there is something about kitchen god in the korbanot, and I miss that. That's all I'm saying. Not necessarily that there are some good shtikelach when it says the kodesh kadoshim shchitosen betzofon. How does the Yetzer Hara kill the great tzaddikim in their conscience, in their deep places, in the hidden places, you know, shchitosen betzofon. So you can see, I mean, they did something with that stuff, but there it simply meant a space, an issue of how to deal with space and how to do what you do on which side of the mizbeach and what you do on the other side of the mizbeach. Yeah.
But there, with all due respect to you, every time I either read or quote you on that question you asked, do you think that God wanted
Lamb chops?
Lamb chops? My answer is, on one level, yes.
Sure.
And Naj has been bugged by me for so many years because I miss not the language of korbanos, but the whole notion of burning and
giving up,
and all that is so powerful.
Ki yakriv mikem, right?
and that Philot, to me, at least initially, was a poor substitute for the Kishka experience of that whole thing. And I don't think, well, to make up for the fact that my answer to your question is different than your answer, that until Davanology has been developed, and particularly the Hasidim, and then through what you've done, where we've come to see that there is possibly power enough in this stuff, that we may come close to replacing it. But the experiential, in fact, yesterday, Amitai had his Shiur with Yehudis, and they watched a movie that I guess came out of Breslov on the role of the Kohen in the Beit HaMikdash. Right? And I didn't see it, but Amitai's description of the Kohen going up and dance, movement, and all this sure comes closer to them reading the words of what the Kohen did.
I like the avoda. I have never skipped, you know, on Yom Kippur, because to go in and to watch the scene, v'ha'kohanim v'ha'ama omdim be'azara, noflim al peneihem, and so on and so forth, and even what he does to send the sorry la'azazel. Let me tell you another. It's reminiscing time today. There is a chavurah in Boston. And every Rosh Chodesh, another person or persons had the right to, and had the task to cater the Rosh Chodesh meal and to come up with something to do. So it came my turn, and we made tuna casserole. That was the easiest thing for all the people there to make. And there was a fireplace, and I put a hibachi in that fireplace and lit up the charcoals and had some incense, nice, good incense stuff, Catholic incense, that grainy thing there to put on top of the thing. And everybody was to go and get their food. And when they had their food, they had to look at their plate and pick that morsel that was most inviting and put it aside and walk over to the hibachi and put it on the fire while we sang Hallel. It was so interesting. There were some reactions that people had that were, I'm not going to do that. This is terrible, burning the food, you know, the stuff that some people got into. And some others were Lecha Ezbach Zevach Toda, and we sang through the Hallel, the whole thing. So, you know, this was a wonderful moment. It stank a little bit.
I bet.
Barbecue tuna casserole.
I mean, the
I
incense.
think it smelled pretty awful at the Beit HaMikdash too.
That's right. The incense
sure
that we put on top didn't help much.
Well, you know, my Savta had a practice that, you know, that's really sort of been, it's very much a part of me, but I didn't appreciate it for a long time. She would get up in the morning, and before she would take care of herself, so I could come into the kitchen in the morning and she was still in her nightgown and she hadn't bathed yet and she hadn't even brushed her teeth. Before she would take care of herself, she would start to prepare the Aruchat Zoraim. And her, you know, her teaching to me was that it wasn't appropriate to take care of her body needs until there was a reach nichoach coming from the kitchen, right?
Wow.
But that reach nichoach was both, it was her offering, it was her tefillah, it was her way of presenting herself to God, right? But the real act was that she was in service to the family that God had given her, right? So this was her act of gratitude,
That's beautiful.
and it was her offering, and it was a description of her life. And so for me, when I'm in my kitchen, I cook for my family every day. We don't do fast food or anything. My kids get fresh food cooked for them every day. There's a real, for me, cooking for my family, feeding my family is a korban. It's a bigger korban in my life because I'm a vegetarian and I cook meat for my family because they want to eat that. And when people say to me, "How can you do that?" It's my service. It's the way I'm doing what God intends for me, which is being in service to this gift that He's given me. But that reach nichoach in the morning was essential. So in my house, very often it's really just lighting the stick of incense or making fragrant tea or something like that. But having that sense that you don't take care of yourself until there's that reich nichoach coming.
For me to wake up to the smell of coffee and the baking of a cinnamon bun, that would say it pays to get up, right? It's
I have a
wonderful.
practice every morning. I make fruit salad.
Those of you
It
that saw
became
the
a real
article.
practice.
Thank you.
The day doesn't start without a fruit salad in our house.
Wow.
So chopping of not the veggies, the fruit.
That's great.
I mean, how much of this is, the residue of when you look at the whole korbanot.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
There's the,
Shabbat Shira Shalom.
there's the preparation, which is as significant as the actual act of firing the animal.
Hold on for a second. Reb Marc,
Yeah.
I might come tonight,
Yeah.
and let's do something nice with Lachadodi and with all the other things, okay?
Okay.
All right.
In case you weren't planning that already.
We'll feel better. Refuah shlema.
I mean, there is that, where we replace the mizbeach with our shulchan, and the whole preparation. I mean, the part of what Nadia spoke of. But there's also, the whole setting of the table. I mean, we've tried to get our kids into that the setting of the table is the preparation for that which comes from, the firing.
Abaya have a mesado seder have aracha. You have
Right.
right. That is exactly the same situation. Saying how did they set these things up?
Marisha used to say, water the fruit, remember? Water the root, enjoy the fruit.
Water the root and enjoy the fruit.
This was the science of creative intelligence principle. Water the root, enjoy the fruit. The children
Amen.
that's what the children at school would chant all the time.
Let's do a couple of more.
Okay.
Hame'ula shebemaftechot. Got that? הכוונות בתפילה אינן כמפתחות לשערים. אך פעמים יש בחור המנהל, המנעול, מלא חלודה ולא מועיל עם המפתחות, מה שאין כן לב שבור הוא מבחינת גרזן וקרדום, שאין דבר העומד לנגדו. Sometimes when you can't open the lock, you have to break it. That's what he's saying. And why is it that the lock will not yield? Because it's gotten filled with blotter, that there is stuff that shouldn't be there. The issue about Shivron Halev keeps coming up in so many ways. And I think I told you once the pshat that comes from Rabbi and Karlina, who said, Harofe lishvure lev u'mechabesh la'atzvotam. On the one hand, you say you should have Shivron Alev, you should Shivron Alev, and then all of a sudden God comes and takes care of it and heals your Shivron Alev. I don't want it, I want to have Shivron Alev. That's his question. The answer, he says, is like this. When you have a Lev Shavur, you can either be be'atzvut or be'merirut. Atzvut is that sadness that has given up, that has despaired. And merirut is a sadness that says, I won't have it. I'm not going to let this happen. Okay, this thing. So, Harofe Lishvur Lev. We have a Shivron Halev, so we need God to help us and make it a gesunde zerbrochene Herz, you know? Get it? Harofe Lishvur Lev. He heals he makes sure it's a healthy broken heart. Therefore, Mechabesh le'atzvotam, he takes the atzvot and binds it up, you know, and bandages it up. This is wonderful pshat here. Yeah. What, you know, this is such a strange thing, because on the one hand, you get the sense of Mi anochi she'ezke lehitpalel. You know, what right have I got to address the infinite and so on and so forth. So, Ma enoshki tizkerena, you can go all these things. On the other hand, there has to be a sense of Bani matem laHashem Elokechem, you know, and dafke that heaven and earth depend really on our prayer and so on and so forth. So there's a different notion about that. So I find that, how would I say, the worst Yetzer Hara is that when you start davening, you get that thought, so you're going to waste another hour now. Won't make any difference, you know. That grayness, you know, that's an Amalek thing. Asher kolcho baderech cools you so much that you have to. A lot of the work goes into saying, Afal pikein velamrot hakol. I know that something is there, and I'm offering myself to that. And even in the long run, it turns out that nothing is happening. I'm very happy with this time, how I spent this. So, verdrehen ich kein Kopf, you know. It's like, this is what I'm doing for me, you know. There's a sometimes you have to use that selfishness to say, I need that right now. Without that, I'm not gonna.
So, do you have any etzot for the rabbi who is leading the service? The thrust is to provide the balabatim with an experience. But what about yourself?
So, another story. I'm in New Bedford, and in order to get the job, they asked me if I would sometimes do some services for the young people. So we set up, we're going to do a Friday night service, and in order that everybody should be happy, we have it in the vestry, where the vestry was a separate beautiful building, the newer building in the shul. Can have the service in the vestry, so I can have the men and the women sit together. Because after all, it was an Orthodox shul, the women were upstairs usually. So there I can have the men and the women sit together. So what do? I'm a good Lubavitcher. So I have to daven before dinner at home. So I davened up very quick. Finished a couple of Shabbos. Now I was Yotze. Okay.
Right.
Right.
And then I walked to the shul, and it was about 14 blocks, and it gave me a chance always to prepare in my mind what's going to happen, so on, before I come to the shul. And I conduct the service. Right? And my line comes, and thou hast exalted my horn like that of a wild ox. In the Silverman, not the Silverman, and the other one, the Birnbaum prayer book, you know?
Yeah.
So, the thing had no time. They knew I was doing it for the birds, you know? I was doing it for the birds, but at home the davening didn't click either.
So you knew you were going to do it later.
So I went and followed the Rebbe Melech's advice. And he says, if you want to start something new to work for you, you have to do it for 40 days. Quarantine. Right? Right? That's 40 days, you figure. If there's a sickness, it'll show in 40 days. 40 days is that kan 40 yom. You know, you have it in with Noach and so on and so forth. Moshe Rabbeinu 40 yom. So I take the Birnbaum Siddur and I daven on the English side, including Asher Yotza when I come out from the bathroom. Every bracha, I do it in English. So I should really get into how English is a way of davening, because otherwise, I'll just conduct services, right? So after a while, when I was davening in English, I wanted to sound it out also. So I'm davening Shemon Esrei. Blessed art thou, Lord, who healest the sick of thy people Israel. Bless our year. And so on. So the nigun came into that thing. So after the 40 days, I stopped doing Kabbalah Shabbos at home and did it with the people later on, so that I should be there at that point, fresh feeling that I'm davening there too. Mm-hmm. And it made a difference. Mm-hmm. Because by that time, I wanted to be Yotze for myself too. You know, it wasn't like I was doing it for the others. A few years later, I'm already in Philadelphia, and I go over to New Jersey. Right now, I forgot the name of the town. And I'm teaching there, and showing them davening in English with a nigun out of the Silverman prayer book and so on and so forth. And I come back a half a year later again and ask the rabbi, did you do that with your people? Because I had urged him that he should do it and not let it just drop. He says, I did it once and it fell flat. So I asked him, did you do it at home before? He says, no. So I said, well, here's what you did. You got up on the pulpit and you telegraphed on the emotional telegraph, I'm not sure about this, I don't know I'm going to handle this, I feel funny doing this, you know. So that's what telegraphed itself to the people there. So my sense is that when you have a moment of emes devotion coming through you, and takeshiviti, you know, there, then it telegraphs. It goes on and has some, but then it calls on doing it, you know, at home in with the same thing, so that there shouldn't be that kind of a distance. Okay,
that's why you get the feeling from the stories of Levi Yitzchak, that he combined both his own davening and really deep davening for and with his people.
When he gets into do, Aryeh Kaplan keeps saying this thing, all you need to do is get really clear to start saying, Ribono shel olam, 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 Ribono shel olam. So that's the getting into the Tao of it, right? From the I to the Tao.
We had this a story. Yeah.
Go.
What was it? 9 years ago. Nadia and I went to the Klal Rabbinic Conference in Rhode Island. So there, of course, you got Reconstructionist, Orthodox, Reform. So the renewal representation was Nadia and Marcia and myself. So they hint to you that you got to work it out on your own. So when it comes to Shacharit, the first day, everybody's standing around, they don't know what to do. So the conservative rabbi, this is the Peshara, the conservative rabbi goes up and davens by the numbers, everything, right? The Orthodox rabbis are uncomfortable because there are about
The
30
women,
rabbis. There are women standing with the men. They weren't sure what to do, so they kind of held back. The second day, the same thing, all right? Nothing different. That afternoon, Marcia, Nadia, and I get together and say, enough of this. Obviously, the object is that we're supposed to break out of that mold. So we decide that we're going to do this shacharit the next day. So we go to Yitz Greenberg and tell him. And he says, wonderful. So we plan the service. We come out in the morning. Marcia sets up an altar with all sorts of schmanzes, right? And the three of us sit down to start the service. Yitz looks at everything and he says, we got a problem. I have a chiyuv. It's my father's yard site. And if these two women lead davening, I won't be yotzei. All right? So I say, Yitz, there's no chiyuv for Birkat HaShachar and Pesukei de Zimra. So we'll do that. You enjoy it. And then you take over for the Baruch Hu. And he looks at me and he says, you were a good student of mine, because I had him as all right, for liturgy at JTS in 68, 69, right? So we did it. But, of course, Birkat HaShachar and Pesukei de Zimra lasted a long time, right? So Yitz had to race through because we had breakfast. Afterwards, we're sitting, and all these Reform and conservative and Reconstructionist rabbis come up to us and say, if you had done the whole service, we wouldn't have been done until noontime. Marcia goes, yeah. and I say, what else do you have to do? And they look, what? I said, what else do you have to do but daven? Right? And they go,
הלוואי שיתפלל האדם כל היום.
Remember when you taught us that chaotic davening?
Yeah.
What did you tell us how long the services lasted?
Till 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon sometimes.
Yeah.
Davening ba'arichut, sure. Sure.
You didn't
There
have
is a
any-
minyan in Jerusalem, the leader
Yeah.
minyan
Yeah.
in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
That's it. You go at 8 o'clock in the morning on Shabbos, and it lasts until 2, 3. You do the whole thing, men. It's Orthodox, but women participate. Women lead. Women read from the Torah. And there's schnapps in the middle. I mean, real serious schnapps. Vodka, anything you can imagine. And it's like a whole day.
That's davening.
It's ecstatic. It's just amazingly wonderful. It's a real experience.
You see, it translates itself to different settings in a different way. That's what B'nai Jeshurun is doing in its own way. That's what we're doing. And, you know, it's, how would I say, Kol ha'orev liminehu. You know, we all have to do it according to the other birds that are with us in this thing. Ah, wonderful. One more. All right, כל תפילה שאינה בכוונה אינו תפילה, וכיצד היא הכוונה? שיפנה את ליבו ויסתת. No, שיפנה את ליבו מכל המחשבות, וירא עצמו ויראה עצמו כאילו הוא, וירא את עצמו כאילו הוא עומד לפני השכינה. Okay. This is so funny if you know, when you see the Rambam in Yad HaChazakah and the Rambam in the Moreh, and you say, is that the same person? You know? On the other hand, when he sees him, the way in which he has you've seen the Rambam, how he says you have to hold your hands and you stand ke'avda kamamara, like a servant before his master, and very much like Islamic etiquette. וכך היו עושים חסידים ואנשי מעשה שמתבודדים ומכוונים בתפילתם עד שהם מגיעים להשפשטות הגשמיות, להתגברות כוח השכלי, עד שהיו מגיעים קרוב למעלת הנבואה.
Who is this?
He quotes the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim here, and here again, you know, that business of the Hitbodedut. We think of this as if it's first began with Reb Nachman because he makes so much of that, but Hitbodedut goes back to the Dead Sea people and to the desert fathers and so on and so forth. They had Hitbodedut. Then he goes on with the Hasidim Harishonim and he says, Hayushoim Sha'achas Kodem Atfila ומתפללים כדי שיכוונו ליבם למקום וטעם הדבר כדי שיכוונו שיהיה ליבם שלם בעבודת המקום ויבטלו מליבם תענוגי עולם הזה והנאותיהם כי כשיתארו ליבם מהבלי עולם הזה תהיה כוונתם ברוממות השם תהיה תפילתם רצויה ומקובלת לפני המקום. This business of the getting rid of all the chosed, the high alma, all the things of this world, that kind of, what do you call it, asceticism is not what works for us today. You know, I think we have to bring it in rather than take it out. I have a nice surprise for you, so I'm going to do it now. I ordered I'll shut this off in a moment. I ordered the CD of Madonna that has the Isaac, that piece on Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, that, I just wanted to hear that they made so much fuss about. And